Welcome back to Orca Aerospace.
We all have that one game. That one that stares at you from the digital storefront while you're chasing other commodities. Like a mirror reflecting a version of yourself that's about to press play, but never really does. For me, that was Stellar Blade. Even though I've been eyeballing this game since it was called Project Eve, it somehow slipped through the cracks of my release radar. Now at the time, I kind of filed it under the "I'll get to it eventually" pile. At the time, I was so wrapped up by the noise of Persona 3 Reloaded and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, so distant to even realize what Stellar Blade was trying to say. And it wasn't until several months ago when Lucas gifted me this game for Christmas was when I pressed start. And man, by waiting this long, I did myself a major disservice. Because the moment I stepped out and saw the first sights of 807, it hit me. There's this specific moment early game when Eve sits down on a couch and takes in the scale of the ruins.
Wow, what a view.
And this is the first time the game tries to be something grander, something greater, I feel like. And I felt like I was living in this decaying world that was absolutely massive. That view alone turned my curiosity of this game into a genuine obsession and paved the way for the thing that truly hooked me, the music. You know, it wasn't the combat, it wasn't the visuals, it was genuinely the music. You know, it's kind of hard to talk about music in a narrative way when music isn't my major, but it kind of felt like the heartbeat of my journey. And the only reason why Lucas bought this game for me in the first place was because I found its OST and listened to it a lot on my way home from work. It didn't take long before I was immersed in the world, simply standing still, looking at Zion, Idol 7, and 9. Even in the deserts, the score was able to breathe, and this whole soundtrack was in my rotation on a daily. There's this specific lonely energy to the tracks that start pulling at a very specific thread in my brain. Like it's a loneliness that the game doesn't just show you in the environment, it made me feel like I was a part of this lone and desolate world. There's a specific happy sad feeling I get when I listen to this entire soundtrack. It's this warm, melancholic hum that makes you feel two things at once. On one hand, the melodies make you feel like you have someone close, a reminder that there is still humanity left in this world. And when I'm in Zion, it felt like this flicker of hope, like people are still holding on to that feeling, dreaming. It's a very strange sense of comfort, and it's a weird way to say, this game makes me feel at home. Now, on the other hand, you take a step back and you look at the scale of the ruins, and then you start to unravel the world through the information of data sticks. Reading the people's final thoughts who didn't make it through the brutal reality of the final war between humanity and Andro Eidos, or the conflicting sides of Mother Sphere versus Zion, who is the real light? It kind of feels like the music tonality shifts, and suddenly that warmth I felt earlier now feels like a sharp, beautiful loneliness. This hum that you're listening to right now, this is probably one of my favorite tracks. It is so Majora's Mask pilled. Knowing that the world is going to end, in this case it already has ended, and all you're doing is collecting the echoes of people who are long gone, almost as a means of preservation. I go back and forth between liking and disliking apocalyptic worlds, but Stellar Blade, bro. Now, by no means is this a perfect way to do the narrative, and I have quite a few flaws with it. Unfortunately, world building in this way is kind of a trope. When a world's world building is primarily done through scavenging information and like a lot of reading, world building can feel one note in a game as ambitious and in your face as this. It would have been better to experience some of these tragedies in a more fleshed out manner, which some of these side quests try to do. And due to that, I just feel like there's a softer emphasis and punch to the overall impact of the story, especially where the story goes with the Natibas, plus the ending, and whatever other quirks that honestly the community has already spoken about. Now, I low-key want to rant about the ending a little bit, more so about Adam. So spoilers ahead, I have no idea how to feel about Adam, because it seems like you are supposed to like him, but by the end of the story, he doesn't feel fleshed out at all, considering his purpose. Now, there are going to be remarks throughout the game that make you kind of confused about how you feel about him, and that could just be like a localization issue.
Maybe you too will come to feel this way.
What?
But that almost made me not like him. By the end of the game, you have a choice with siding with Adam or actually slaying the final Natiba. And without the context of his side, it actually makes it so hard, and I took forever to choose this because I was like, he has not done anything wrong, but he feels wrong. Honestly, I was tweaking when I was choosing this.
though he trusts Eve enough to let her know the plan. So I think the game wants me to take this. I am leaning towards this, and I don't know if I can replay this. I don't know.
And it's only through the data sticks that you actually truly understand his intentions and who he is, aka the creator, aka Mr. Marks, aka the guy that started it all. And it's that type of narrative and information dissonance that some people get turned off by it, besides the major ass in your face. But you want to know what else is in my face? Despite the narrative lows, there's a lot of highs within the main story. Moments that demand your attention. The hypertube is one of my favorite moments, and it's just a good way for me to talk about this moment. It's just like so in your face. Eve's acrobatics, the movement, the freaking sonic light speed, feeling going around the tube like, whoa. And to me, it just felt like a perfect amount of cinema. Like no dumb story beats, no hidden information through reading. It's just pure awesome. There is a passion that the game truly wants to portray. Remember when I mentioned Majora's Mask? Well, it feels like that game in more ways than one. For example, the Sidequests. It helps let the Sidequests feel like a natural extension of the atmosphere. When I was playing them, they didn't feel like just completing checkboxes. They are opportunities to meet a memorable task and attend to their curiosity, whether it's about a family member's survival or help someone through a health crisis. And it makes it better because a lot of these side quests are followed up with more side quests. It feels like a natural and mini arc to a lot of these side characters, making me care about the people in Siren. Take Enya, for example. You help her transition from a coma and eventually fixing her legs and uncovering the truth of who she was before she fell apart. And this is something you get to play alongside the main story, making you build that connection. Here is another example. Lily's Atelier. I would classify this as a side quest because you can completely miss this area if you don't do enough side quests in the game. But we get to see where Lily supposedly hid out for a couple of years on Earth before we found her stuck in the pod in the beginning. It's both wholesome and bittersweet. And honestly, I was starstruck when I entered this building. It was so beautiful that I just literally stood still, had to take it in. And it's that slow and rewarding feel that brings me back feelings of my favorite game, Majora's Mask. And to put the cherry on top of this, there was reason to do these side quests. I have to mention the cosmetics and collectibles, the cans and the outfits. Now I know the internet has its own reputation in this game, but collecting outfits was a crucial part of this game for me, a crucial part of my enjoyment. I'm no gooner, maybe a little bit, but I genuinely just love good cosmetics. Even in a simple game like Harvest Moon, I enjoy jazzing up my guy. In a world this desolate, finding a new suit felt like claiming or even creating a piece of personality for Eve. It was another way to breathe life into her and the world around her. And every new look that I acquired just made that journey a little bit more mine. It's that same drive for completion that made me want to help everyone in Zion. Like it truly is about filling this hollow world with something beautiful, something to make it beautiful. But it also helps that collecting some of these outfits are a fine addition.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a bizarre emotional loop. The music is this beautiful loneliness that makes me never want to leave. And somehow it makes me grateful for the pockets of life that reside in it. You know what? It is actually bizarre because I did all the fishing in this game too, with the little dang freaking anime fishes that trolled me. Oh my god. Even Final Fantasy 15 couldn't get me to fish. But as much as I love inhabiting that melancholy, eventually the weight of the silence and the tragedy of the data sticks kind of linger on you. Like, I can only be so sad before I actually become sad in real life. And the game kind of shifts again. Sometimes it's neither relaxed or sad. It's a burst of pure high-octane energy. And that's exactly what I needed to not feel so overwhelmed in it all the time. Now let's be real. The combat in this game, it's probably going to be the best part of the game for most people. And when I think about it, it's kind of that bridge between the loneliness and humanity. The music is no longer the main focus. The combat becomes the main story. It becomes the rhythm. This might be the most classic and exaggeration phrasing ever, but like, this is probably one of the best combat systems I've ever played in my f***ing life. Now, I am no parry god by any means. In fact, parry-based systems are kind of my weak point. It's one of those things that if I don't get right, I am putting my controller down. But in Stellar Blade, it didn't feel like button mashing to me. I felt deliberate. At first, I was fighting the controls as much as the Nintibas. I was kind of playing this like a hack and slash, but the game definitely punished me for it. To me, this game feels like a perfect blend of like Souls-like, Nier, and even God of War, all combined into one perfect unit. Every parry was heavy, a physical climax that resonated in my hand, and bro, every dodge, it hit like pure crystalline euphoria. It is f***ing crack.
Are you on drugs or alcohol?
No, sir.
Do you take drugs or alcohol?
What is drugs?
I'm not even sad reading the fucking data sticks anymore. I'm going and in a very blunt way, this was the high that I was looking for to kind of offset that sadness. It was great. I didn't feel discouraged at all, and in fact, it felt like it wanted to push me towards becoming a better player. And I slowly got better. And then I got better. And better. And better. Not to say it definitely didn't kick my ass. I died quite a bit. Man, it was great. The boss got harder. They got better. They definitely got harder. And they got so much better. Take the soccer. It felt like a straight boxing match with this monster that can bend and turn in weird ways. Exactly the type of body horror movement that I would expect from this amalgamation creature. That was the first parry hurdle that I needed to overcome. Or Belial. That fight was a pure test of nerves. He is this highly aggressive Nativo with multiple phases. And it makes him stand out because he is bipedal and he kind of has like a human arc to him. Honestly, for a monster, he feels like the most human-like in his combat style, which makes every parry feel even more high stakes. And I love that as the bosses got harder, the time to read their attacks got more difficult, and not an insane leap that made me crash out. I believe this game peaked when I reached the demo crawler. I mean, of course, the music had me like, and it felt like all of this fighting, all of this learning, it was all for something. This was the moment. There's this moment in the demo crawler fight where he spews a flurry of chaotic orbs, and that's when it hit me. Time slowed down. I wasn't just guessing. I was in the flow state. Have you ever watched Kuroko no Basket? Like that type of flow state. I felt like I was in an anime. And deflecting every single orb felt like a complete transformation for me. And I was thinking, maybe I am a god. The only time I call real BS is the fight against the Providence. This was kind of a big leap in difficulty. At max, I felt like I would play a boss and die maybe only like a couple of times. I for sure spent like 2 or 3 hours on this boss fight alone. For one pure reason that I kind of already talked about. His attacks actually came out fucking instantly. They were so hard to read. But at the same time, I would be lying if it didn't feel insanely satisfactory to beat him. This guy was a true ultimate test to everything I've learned, like bar none. Like the timings, the speed, your skill set, your burst moves, your follow-ups. God damn. It is overwhelming in the best way possible. Now, once you face off against the Providence, that's kind of it. The game locks the door behind you. I know that there are technically other endings and I should go through them, but this is the one I chose and the one that I feel like is appropriate for the game. If you got to the very end, you cannot re-explore the other areas. You're basically locked. I'm pretty sure. And honestly, not being able to go back to Zion, I didn't want my adventure to end. The moment the credits started rolling, I didn't just quit the game. I went straight to the boss rush mode, primarily to take on one of the DLC bosses, Scarlet. And she pretty much confirmed one thing for me. I still fucking suck. I mean, yeah, honestly, it wasn't as hard as the Providence in my opinion. And I beat her pretty easily, but she was still fucking hard. And even there, that was not enough. I had to start New Game Plus instantly. My drive to continue playing after I realized that there are even more outfits to collect, evolved versions of the suits I already love, it's a no-brainer. It gave me a reason to step back into this world with a new perspective and, more importantly, a new wardrobe. Small additions like the Nier Automata and Nikke DLC felt like fun crossovers. Seeing Eve in 2B's gear, running through a world that already shared so much of that Yoko Taro DNA, It felt like such a good nod. With all the devastation in this world, it's kind of ironic because it feels so good and almost comforting to play. Alternatively, I mean, the game has very minimal moments like this, but it's enough that I need to mention these little shits. These gave me tweet. Every single side mission that involved these must have been an inside joke from Shift Up. But all good things must come to an end. The second time going up the Orbital Tower and listening to Everglow and the Arisa theme, I definitely have this bittersweet feeling with departing from Stellar Blade. I honestly look back at the version of myself from a couple months ago, the one who didn't realize that he was caught in the "I'll do it someday" trap. By letting the noise of other games drown out what Stellar Blade was trying to say, I did myself a major disservice. Stellar Blade is a rare find, a game that manages to capture that sharp, beautiful loneliness that I've held onto dearly, like Majora's Mask. But it wraps it in a combat system mixed with other genres, refining it into its own euphoria. You know, this game's not perfect, and it's probably not a game that you can play around your family without getting some looks, but I don't care what others think. I don't care if you think it's a Gooner game because the heart of it is undeniable.
Okay, are we good? Okay, we're good now.
Call it recency bias, but this is for sure in my top 10 games of all time. Bold claim. But I'm just glad that my time for being passive has stopped, and I stopped looking at my library and actually got a chance to press start. And it turns out the exact feeling, the exact game that I've been wanting for a while now has just been sitting right there on my radar this whole time.